Welcome to Inspired Changemakers, a podcast about all the amazing things people are doing to make the world a better place. This podcast is about creating change and the moments that inspired our guests to activate. My name is Julia Healey, and I'm the CEO of United Charitable. Stay tuned to be inspired. All right, well, Sophia Chang, welcome to the podcast, Inspired Changemakers, where we talk to leaders that are really inspiring change within their community and within themselves. And I'm going to do your bio. And again, this is a very big bio, so I've condensed it with that. But Sophia Chang is a screenwriter and author who is developing numerous TV properties, including a scripted series based on her memoir, The Baddest Bitch in the Room.
Can we say that on this podcast?
Yes, we're going to put the little warning underneath. Sophia recently created Unlock Her Potential, a program that provides mentorships for women of color. She's been in the music business for how many years?
I mean, I started in the music business 37 years ago.
That's insane. And you have managed some pretty major artists, including Old Dirty Bastard,
God rest his soul,
D'Angelo, A Tribe Called Quest, Q-Tip, and you've worked with Paul Simon.
I did work with Paul Simon. Yeah, it was amazing. That was my first real job in the music business. I didn't manage him. I worked for his tour manager, but what an entree into the world. And thank you for having me, Julia Healey.
And I will say that you've also done stuff with runway shows, Project Runway All-Stars. You were an account executive at a digital agency, biz development at a cannabis company.
Yeah.
So you're just like an entrepreneur of all sorts.
I think so. I think part of it, Julia, is that I'm intensely curious. And once I get somewhere, I just dive all the way in. My mentor, Michael Austin, will say, Soph is like a heat-seeking missile. Just point her in the direction and she's going to get there faster than anybody. And under budget, I'll say.
So then tell me, so how did this all start? Tell me a little bit about growing up in your family life.
Born and raised in Vancouver, Canada, child of Korean immigrants. You know, immigrants make a lot of sacrifices when they leave their home country and come to a new one, especially when they don't share the phenotype of the country that they emigrate to. And my parents, Sophia Chang, God rest his soul, and my mother, Tongsuk Chang, they came here and they started a new life. My brother, Hisok, was born in Korea, and I was the first of our whole lineage that was born off of Korean soil. And my father was a math professor, my mother was a librarian, and it was just a really secure environment is what I'll say. That said, I was a yellow girl in a white world who wanted to be white. I got called chink. I got called Jap. I got called gook. All of the epithets. And, you know, for children, what most children really want is to belong.
Right.
Again, that's a primal need. We have to stick together. If we do not stick together as a tribe, as a clan, as a community, we will be eaten by the saber-toothed tiger and the woolly mammoth.
Right.
So I knew, okay, well, I can't belong in a real way because I'm not white. So what are the other ways that I can belong? Well, I'm really smart and I'm witty and I developed my sense of style. So I did what so many of us do. I just compensated in other ways.
Did you know that at an early age? That like, when did you know about this smartness? Like, when did you recognize that you were smart and you were witty and you could build community around that? Were you young?
I think I knew I was smart when I was really young. Yeah. Building community, I mean, I didn't start saying that until I was in my 50s, but just, and being witty, I think my brother and I are both really witty. But again, these are things that I nurtured, right? So it's always, and you know this as a parent, it's always, where is, on the spectrum, is it between nature and nurture? So it was something that I also developed as a defense mechanism.
Right.
I'm going to be teacher's pet. I'm going to be class clown. I'm going to have the best sense of style. I'm going to be the smartest, and all of that kind of stuff because I was already so marginalized. And again, all of us just want to be in the center. It's a survival technique and an instinct.
And so you said, okay, how old were you when you left home for the first time?
I moved out at 22 and I skipped my university graduation. And if you talk to any child of Asian immigrants and you tell them that you didn't go to the graduation, I mean, what's shocking, Julia, is I don't even remember telling my parents that I wasn't going to go to graduation. I don't remember their response. And again, what you and I were talking about, that you get the parents, I was lucky enough to get the right parents. And I talked to my mother about it. I was like, what did you say? And she was like, we didn't say anything, Sophia, because we knew we couldn't stop you.
And you were like, I'm going to go and I'm going to try to break into the music industry.
Yeah.
In not even just the music industry, like the hip hop music,
I didn't even know what I was going to do.
Okay.
I just knew, yes, that music was my passion.
Yeah.
I'd started sneaking into clubs when I was 17, and I befriended a bunch of musicians, and I learned a lot about recording studios. And again, this is in Vancouver, so I'm hardly at the epicenter of the music business, but I just wanted to learn, and I love the creative process.
Yeah.
So when I came here, I was sleeping on the couch of an amazing writer, Legs McNeil. He wrote for Spin Magazine, and his then partner, Carol Overby. They took me in for a few weeks, and I met them through Joey Ramone, God rest his soul. Joey was the one person that I knew in New York, and he said, go stay with my friends. And I just started going to clubs and just started meeting people, because like you, Julia, you're like this too. You'll just talk to anybody.
Yeah.
Like, hi, well, my name is Julia. Well, what do you do? Well, this is what I do.
Yeah.
And this is so interesting. And,
right.
Again, this comes down to one of the things that we talked about yesterday was curiosity.
Yeah.
And I just started meeting a bunch of people. And in 12th grade, back in Vancouver, I had heard the message by Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five, and I was undone. And I went, oh my God, because I'd never heard anything so cinematic. And it's not that I wanted to enter that world, because they're describing a world that you wouldn't want to enter, but that is very real to them. But it just ignited my imagination in terms of, wow, there's a whole world out there that you don't know about, and also being so compelled by a different form of storytelling. And I always loved to dance. I've been dancing since I was like 3. And just being hit in the solar plexus by the 808 and the beats and everything was really exciting. So when I came here, I just started hanging out at clubs where there were bands like Fishbone and The Godfathers and Squeeze and Elvis Costello. I've seen all of them in concert. I've seen probably thousands of concerts. But then I also was hanging out at the hip hop clubs where there's a Tribe Called Quest and Leaders of the New School and the Beastie Boys and, Busta Rhymes and everybody. So I was in the music world, and all of this was downtown.
Okay.
It was all in the downtown scene, and there was such a beautiful, speaking of community, there was such a beautiful sense of community, because now, you'd have to had to go to a club, but now it's about bottle service, and now that there's social media, it's about everybody's taking selfies of themselves, and there are, girls in very short skirts and very high heels. They're not there to dance. There are men there that are just like looking cool, and they're wearing their sunglasses, and they're behind a red carpet, and they get, they have their bottle of whatever. And
yeah,
I just feel like so many people go to clubs to be seen.
Yeah.
We were not there to be seen. Nobody had cameras. We didn't have cell phones.
You were there for the environment.
And the common thread was we were there for the music. And the incredible thing about the hip hop scene back in the late 80s, every single sector of the industry was there. So of course you had all 4 pillars of hip hop. You had MCs, DJs, B-boys, and graph artists, and B-girls. But you also had A&R people. You had publicists, you had publishers, you had lawyers, you had agents, you had managers, you had video directors. Literally every single segment. And then you would have artists like Keith Haring, God rest his soul, there, right? Like you would actually have artists, you would have people in fashion. And the common thread that ran through all of us was a passion for hip hop and the culture and the community.
So then what was your first break? Because there's, right? We can have a passion for things. I love music. I do too. But to get paid?
My first break was, I would say that my first break was working at Paul Simon. So Carol Overby, the woman that let me sleep on her couch, she was the accountant to Paul Simon's tour manager, Danny Harrison, God rest his soul. And she's the one that pulled me in and said, Danny needs an assistant. Danny marketing assistant. I was like, okay. So that was my entree into that world.
Okay.
I made my own way into the hip hop world. And again, the scene was small, right? And it wasn't insular. It was inviting, which was incredible. And I just started meeting a bunch of people, and I met this guy named Sean Karasov, God rest his soul, the captain, this British guy, and he did A&R Jive. A&R means that you're the talent scout. It's probably the most coveted job at a record company. And he said, Sophie, I'm moving to LA. You should apply for my job. And I went and I applied for the job. I did an interview with Barry Weiss, probably one of the smartest, certainly one of the smartest record company people I've ever met. He was a president of the label. And he told me much later, he said, the second you walked in the door, I knew I was not going to hire you. And I said, so what changed your mind? I said, Barry, why did you hire me? I mean, I'm a Korean-Canadian woman. I'm from Vancouver. And he said,
right,
because you had so much passion and you were so connected already within the industry. Because at the time, again, this is pre-digital, this is pre-internet, we had cassettes, right? Like, you had to meet people in person. You weren't sliding into anybody's DMs. You were going to clubs. You were going to cyphers.
You were not being found on YouTube.
Exactly. You weren't being discovered.
Yeah.
And then you just went and you met people in person, and you had to build relationships. And so much of what I do, so much of what you do, so much of what so many of us do is about building relationships.
Yeah.
Because if people don't trust Julia Healey, they're not going to stay with United Charitable.
Correct.
Because you hold my money.
Right.
You hold the future of my program. You hold the future of my foundation. So without that trust, you can't do it. And I have a unique skill to create trust in a very short time.
I'd like to thank United Charitable for sponsoring today's Inspired Changemakers podcast. United Charitable is a national nonprofit that focuses on guiding you on your charitable journey. Whether you like to simply streamline your giving or you like to create your own charitable initiative, United Charitable has the knowledge and resources to support you. If you'd like to learn more, check out the link in our bio. And so tell me a little bit about what working with hip hop artists, like what was it about their plight or what they were trying to say that really connected with you?
I was a French major, in particular a French literature major. My brother is an English professor. My parents, I just saw them reading all the time. So clearly I loved storytelling. Mm-hmm. And I'd never heard storytelling as dynamic and exciting and as urgent and poetic as hip-hop. And I do believe that hip-hop is poetry. If anybody doesn't think hip-hop is poetry, you're a fool, and you're probably racist. I really loved the beat, and I just loved how vital it was. It was so alive, and you could just feel the swell of the energy, and sometimes anger, and sometimes violence, and sometimes love, but always so much passion. And I'm a writer now, and I think that I'm a writer now because of hip-hop.
Yeah.
I really think that the artists that I worked with, the artists that I managed, really inspired me to pick up my own sword.
So who's your favorite artist?
Well, that's a tough one. I have so many artists that I loved. The Clash is one of my favorite artists.
Wow, okay.
Paul Simon is one of my favorite artists. Wow. Obviously Wu-Tang Clan.
Yeah.
I have very varied taste. I love Elton John. I love, then there's all the Motown artists and everybody, but I would say that Wu-Tang Clan and Paul Simon and The Clash come immediately to mind. And then I have a vast library of other artists that I really appreciate and enjoy.
And I think the funny thing about music is how it brings people together. Mm-hmm. And so growing up, I'll tell you something, my mom follows Bruce Springsteen around.
Oh, that's so cute.
To every country. Like
literally?
No. Like they're retired teachers, and they've been to Germany to watch Bruce play. Like, they're in love with Bruce Springsteen.
Have they been to Asbury Park?
Yes. Oh, we're from Jersey. So like,
of course.
Yeah. So we're from,
okay.
So like Bruce Springsteen, right? And so she's seen Mick Jagger, and we had the old vinyls, like the one.
Yeah.
And so my mom was very big into Motown. So I grew up with like Frank Sinatra and Motown and all the things. And so it was really funny because when hip hop was introduced into my family, right? Yes. This girl from Jersey, my mom was very open to it.
Interesting, because she heard the samples.
Well, not because her mom didn't want to let her listen to rock and roll and make like all of that stuff, because we grew up on like the Italian old. Sure. And so it was really interesting. And I remember my first hip hop record. That I ever bought, and still like I can rap it to this day, like every word in middle school. I didn't know what it meant, but I love it. But Salt and Pepper, like still, like
Which
what
song?
A Man. I mean, like all, like
What
I
a
mean,
Man.
Push It.
What an amazing Push It is one of my favorite hip hop songs.
It's like,
especially to dance to. Do you remember the video with the leather jackets and the biker shorts?
Of course. And what I also appreciated, and being a girl that has been heavy for the majority of her life, Salt and Pepper didn't look like.
They look
Madonna.
Like normal women.
They didn't look like all the other pop singers that came out at that time.
They look like normal ass women.
And we came and we danced, and at my middle school dance, and I'm like, and I can dance. And so I was like,
did you know all the moves from the video?
Of course I did. Do you know what I mean?
I've never learned the moves from the video. Oh my God.
And I was super obsessed with like Paula Abdul too, of course. Yes, like I'm like back, and so I learned all that too. But like it was so funny because I really remember like the hip hop music coming in and like the rap music coming into my life. And like we were like Rough Riders. Like think about like Rough Riders. Like you know what I mean?
God, and God rest his soul.
I know. And like and here I am, this girl that like why am I connecting to this music whatsoever? But
and what was it?
So I was a tap dancer my whole life.
Interesting.
And so I started tapping when I was very, very young. I tapped all the way till 18. And tapping to rap music is really cool.
Tapping to rapping. Yeah.
It's so cool.
Yeah.
And so
because it's so much about the beat, and it's about rhythm and syncopation.
Correct. And anticipation.
Yes.
Like
all and the urgency again, like the energy and like,
yes.
There's a vitality to it. Oh my God.
And so I just remember being very lucky because a lot of my friends weren't allowed to listen to the music that I was allowed to listen to.
So it's interesting. So you're saying that your mother said, I'm not going to do to you what my mother did to me. She wouldn't let me listen to rock and roll, which was the devil's music, especially if you're in a
mom was born in the 50s,
family, of course.
Catholic,
and then she said, I'm not going to do that, but I'm going to give you freedom to listen to this. That's amazing.
No, I mean, she took me to, I was in 8th grade. I went to my first Janet Jackson concert.
No.
She took me to see the IF tour.
No.
I had to earn grades, but Janet Jackson is still, like, I love Michael Jackson. But like Janet.
Treva, whom you met yesterday.
Yeah.
Oh,
like that
worships Janet. Yeah.
That IF album is like, I can still listen to the whole album right now and just jive. Like it's freedom to me. Yes. And I love her because because she's a woman, she stepped out of her brother's shadows.
Yes.
She didn't care about the Jackson 5.
Yes.
I mean, I've toured that Motown Museum like 6 times. Like I'm like obsessed. But I think it's powerful.
Yeah.
And then you think about, okay, all these kids that have nothing in common except the love of music.
Yeah.
It creates community.
Oh, for sure.
Do you know?
Oh, for sure. Do you remember that movie Munich? Mm-mm. There's a movie called Munich. Eric Bana was the star, and there were there was something going on, but there were essentially there were these two warring sides. It wasn't a gangster movie; it was a political thing, and they despised each other. And at one point, they meet each other in person, and it's a very, very tense moment. And then somebody starts to play. I think it's Al Green, and it all goes away.
All goes away.
And it's so beautiful. And you're like, yes, that's what happens. If you play a song and everybody goes, because we all meet in the rhythm, and we all meet in the lyrics and the harmonies and the melodies and the beat. And for sure.
But you must have had to talk, like you're sitting at that table with all of these people, right? Like some, like Wu-Tang Clan, right? Like you're managing, like this is your job. And you're sitting down and you're the only woman, most likely at the table.
For sure.
Not only that, you're also an Asian woman sitting down at the table. Yeah. How did you muster up that like confidence and power to be like, my opinion matters, my voice matters. I'm going to create goodness and positivity. What was that? And you're also giving directions, you're managing them. So it's not like they're like listening to you. So like,
I can't take the credit for that. it's them, right? Meaning they created that space for me. Absolutely. I never had to muster courage. They never make me feel like, you've got to be brave, Sophia. You've got to come in here. And they just let me be me. And that's the thing about my memoir, The Baddest Bitch in the Room, now on sale on Audible and all fine booksellers near you, that I really hope that people get out of the book. I never give a shit about writing a book to say, my life is cool, I hung out with rappers. There are people that have much cooler lives, in air quotes, that hung out with rappers. What I wanted to tell people in that story was they created that space for me. They took me in. You know, in the beginning, when I entered the hip-hop scene in the late 80s, I was hanging out with all of the groups in the collective called the Native Tongues. Okay. Tribe Called Quest, Jungle Brothers, Queen Latifah, Moni Love, De La Soul, Leaders of the New School.
Queen Latifah?
Yeah. Jersey.
You have no idea how she has changed. Anyway, we'll talk about that offline. Yeah.
I would like to thank Athletes Charitable for sponsoring today's Inspired Changemakers podcast. Athletes Charitable offers a concierge membership service that provides the tools and resources to build a legacy through service. Our athlete-led team has the first-hand experience and expertise to provide hands-on support that simplifies the entire process for athletes and entertainers to reach their social entrepreneurship goals and create lasting impact in their communities. To learn more, check out the link in the bio.
And then, and I was completely embraced, but no hug was as tight and as warm and protective as Wu-Tang Clan. And they just made space for me. They built a throne for me. They put a crown on my head that basically said, she's ours, and I don't have a problem with that. Don't with her. Like, don't with Sophia Chang. And I think what they understood, because I asked them all this when I was doing audio for my memoir, why me? Because I'll tell you, I wasn't like, I was prophetic and I discovered Wu-Tang. I did not discover Wu-Tang Clan. Everybody that got the tape at the same time, we all knew they were going to be huge. There wasn't something unique about me, not at all. Everybody was like, these guys are amazing, but there is a genius asked for a non-exclusive deal, which you cannot get at a record company, which means if you sign a group, the record company has exclusive rights to all the solo artists.
Wow.
Right? So imagine if Columbia signs Destiny's Child and they don't have the rights to Beyonce. They're like,
right.
So he actually got what he got what he asked for. But we all knew that they were going to be huge. And very early on, they were just surrounded by throngs and throngs of people. And I said, with those hordes of people, what made you go, oh, that little Asian woman there, like, let's put her right here. And I said, why me? And Ghostface Killah said, because God put you in front of us, Sophia. God brought you to us. You're supposed to be here. He said, it's been 25 years, Soph. I don't remember anybody's name. I don't remember anybody from back in the day. And yet here you are sitting on my couch in my hotel room.
But you had to trust that that's where you were supposed to be. You had to not doubt yourself that that was where you're supposed to be.
Absolutely.
And I think so much time, especially when we talk about like God and faith and believing, you have to then accept that that's where you're supposed to be. And not do the self-doubt, not do the imposter syndrome, not do any of that stuff.
I definitely had imposter syndrome when I first went when I accepted the job at Jive. I absolutely had imposter syndrome. I'm not black. I'm not a New Yorker. I'm not a man. Right. I don't have decades of history and power and all that kind of stuff. And it was the artists. I signed this group called the Fushnikins, and I talked to Chip Fu about this. And he said, I never understood that, Soph. I never understood. And I said, because of all these things. And he said, but we never saw you that way. Like, you were just one of us. And the fact that they just took me in and saw me as a little sister, a big sister, a matriarch, an auntie, right, was really, I think, solidified all of the dynamics and all the rapports.
But I think as women, and correct me if you disagree with me, showing up as our authentic self, rather than showing up as how we want to be accepted, showing up with how we think we add value in the room, but showing up as our authentic self can be incredibly fearful.
It can be very powerful, and I think it can be both.
Right.
Meaning, I was always myself.
Right.
They wouldn't have accepted me if I wasn't myself. The thing that I learned about rappers, and I don't know really any other genre, is that almost everybody I worked with spent some time doing some things.
Right.
And a number of them were actually in life or death situations.
Right.
What does that mean? It means that their instincts and their intuitions were sharply honed and very, very finely tuned. They could read people exceptionally well. They had to know whom to trust and who not to trust, because it could literally at some point be a matter of life and death. Right. It doesn't mean that everybody gets it right all the time, but it meant that they were really, really in tune to people and their energies. And they were certain to say implicitly, like, you belong here. Now, remember, I'm a white girl. I was a yellow girl in a white world who wanted to be white. I got called Chink, Jap, and Gook. And then here is this group of people, particularly the Wu-Tang Clan. Their whole ethos is based in Asian culture, right? Who say, come with us. So if you're with us, I never felt fully Korean because I lost the language and I rejected my culture. And I certainly am not white because I'm not white. Well, Korean was my maternal tongue. I lost it. There was a time when I didn't like Korean food. Have you ever had Korean food? It's delicious. Amazing.
Yeah.
My mother would make me a cheeseburger and my family would eat this amazing Korean food. So I was kind of between cultures, right? Like, you're definitely not white, even though that's what you want to be. And you're not really Korean because you rejected that. And then I come to hip hop and I'm surrounded by this culture that says, you are welcome to be with us. You're not us, of course not. But you're welcome to be with us and be in this community. And it was incredibly empowering. And again, I knew from when I was really young, I am almost always the smartest person in the room. I am often the wittiest person in the room. I am often the most articulate and eloquent person in the room. So all of these things, I come in with all of this.
Right.
And so I know my potency. So Julie, I wouldn't say that I had to muster courage.
Right.
To be in these spaces.
Right.
And I remember a friend of mine, there was an episode, there was an issue of Vibe magazine, which was Quincy Jones, God rest his soul, Quincy Jones magazine. And there was a really, really early issue. And I was with my girlfriend, and when we opened the first page, there was this picture of Wu-Tang Clan, all 9 of them. And, 6 of them are over 6 feet tall. They're tall. They're big. They can be very scary if they want to. I've seen them be very, very scary. Thank God I've never been on that side
the receiving
of them.
end.
And my girlfriend said, God, Soph, aren't you scared being around them? And I said, I'm scared when I'm not around them.
Right.
There is no forest of trees that have held me close and buttressed me from the elements more than Wu-Tang.
But I think that goes to what you spoke to yesterday. Is community is not always the people that look like you, think like you, act like you. Like,
that's what Sarah was saying, yeah.
And I think that was a really important message.
And Susan Jin David said that, yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's a really important message.
Yes.
When you are looking to build your community, that it is okay.
Yes.
And it was very funny because you're going to laugh, my undergrad degree is in accounting.
Yes.
But I don't act like an accountant. But I love it. And I teach accounting at my local community.
I love this.
And I love accounting. I love debits and credits. I love everything with equal. I love compliance. I love the idea of tax forms.
Did you like the panel yesterday? The financial? Yes.
Yes. Amazing. Absolutely. Because I think I needed to hear some of those things. But I think it's really funny because I was always told that I don't have the personality of an accountant. Because I'm very outgoing and I will talk to anybody and I like to create community and all these things. But it was hard for me to reckon, and then when I went to do my MBA in finance, I don't have the personality of that. So it was really funny because the whole time when I'm like creating community, I wanted, but I'm good with introverted people. Like I pull them right out. Like
Of course you do.
So we make it fun. Yes. And it's and it was so funny because because creating that community is just not what you expect.
But what is the personality of an accountant? What is the personality of an MBA? These are the boxes that we simply cannot allow people to put us in.
No.
And you clearly didn't.
Right.
But to get back to what you were saying, I thought it was amazing when I really appreciate Susan Jin Davis, who runs Al Roker's, who works at Al Roker's production company, when she said, Susan Jin Davis, who is Korean, when she said, it was black people that pulled me into rooms and knocked down doors for me. And I can say unequivocally, it wasn't just black men in terms of hip hop, it was black women, black feminist writers who upheld me and informed so much of how I think about the world, how I move through the world, how I consider and try to, my perspective on the world. And I also appreciate that Sarah Seidner said, look, the two people that brought me in, it was two white men.
Right.
And you seek community and you find help where you find it. And the great thing about that room yesterday, there were more men there than there have ever been. And I thought that was fascinating. And some of the men got up and did baddest bitch declarations.
Yeah, it was just, it was absolutely incredible. But you at some point then decided in your life, I am not going to manage anybody anymore and I'm going to step away to raise my children.
Yeah, so I managed, so the father of my children is also who taught me Kung Fu. I managed him, I managed his temple, we had children. And then that fell apart, the partnership fell apart, and then I continued managing. But it was really when I decided to write my memoir that I decided to stop being in service of others and be in service of myself. And there's nothing wrong with being in service of others, but it had run its course.
Yeah.
And what happened was I had a job at a major label, and it was very corporate, and I started mentoring a number of young women, fresh out of college. They're 22, Julia.
Yeah.
And I thought, oh, Sophia, you're 50. You're a single mother, you're a hustler, you've done all of these different jobs. Your experience could actually help these young women. Because people had said to me, oh, you've got to write a book, you've got all these crazy stories, and you've done this and you've done that. And I thought, that's just an exercise in narcissism. Who gives a shit? What am I going to do, write a book about? Oh, and then there was this time, and I hung out with this person, and we rode on a private jet, never did, and we never have, and we got really drunk, never been drunk. Like, I'm not a party girl. I'm not the fun girl. I'm the woman, I am the bitch that just gets it done, right?
Right.
So I didn't want to write that book. But when I realized that by sharing my story, I could be of service, then everything changes for me, right?
Right, because I think as women, we don't talk about it. Well, at least growing up, we didn't talk about that CEOs didn't look like me, do you know what I mean? Like we didn't talk about any of this whatsoever.
We didn't talk about money. We weren't taught how to take care of money.
No, and not at all. And I think what's really interesting about, your journey into the nonprofit work that you're doing, which we'll get to. But I just think you decided to reinvent yourself at 50 years old.
Yes.
And you decided to focus on your children and But how scary is that? And when we, as women, we think we have to be this one thing. Like we get in this notion, and it's a ribbon that plays in our head over and over and over again, that we just have to be dealt the cards, and we should be grateful. Yes. We should be grateful that the cards that have been and never change.
Yeah. Patriarchy's a bitch, right? Misogyny's a bitch.
Right.
Ageism is a bitch. And I think that we have been so deeply socialized to believe that the apogee of womanhood is motherhood. It is not. And so we've all been conditioned, and we've all internalized these messages that the true measure of a woman and real success as a woman, even that term should be interrogated, is to be a mother and a wife. It's not. First of all, there are 8 billion people on this planet. This planet simply cannot sustain more people. I encourage and I applaud women that say, I don't want to have children. And a lot of those women are shamed. I have plenty of girlfriends, as I know you do, who do not have children, and God bless them. And somebody will say, do you have kids? No. And the first thing they see is, well, what's wrong with you?
I have a very good friend of mine. So we both went to American. We both have accounting degrees. Her and her husband has made the choice not to have children.
God bless.
But we compare, she goes and see the Northern Lights. They live by, they have a house in Seattle. They have a house in Virginia. They have this life that's amazing, and money. You know what I mean? like that's the thing that and it's really funny because she gets asked all the time. She gets asked, Are you, well, could you, and then people will follow up with, could you not have children?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
and she goes, no, I didn't want them. Like,
Yeah.
and she is, and you know, she's from Pittsburgh. So
Yeah.
there's like no part of like, do you know what I mean? But, and it's really interesting to me because there is that shame
And judgment. Oh, no question.
all over it.
Yeah.
And, you know, and I think that that's what's really aspiring about your story is that you're like, yeah, there is going to be you will not shame me for any decision that I have made in my life. It is not accepted, and I have no space for it.
Yeah, I don't have time for it. And again, it's one of the great things about getting older. And you know, your friend is married. Imagine if you're not married and you are a single woman without children. Immediately, or there's this. Oh, Julia, I'm going to introduce you to somebody. You know what I'm saying? Well, what if I don't? Here's the other thing. What if I don't want to have a boyfriend? What if I want to be single?
Yeah.
What if I don't want to be? Well, who gives a? Like, I don't. The presumption that what we are seeking is a partner and to be a mother is so incredibly constricting and confining.
And it's not that I don't honor the women that want to
Of
stay
course.
home and raise them.
I had 2 kids. I had a nuclear family.
Like
yes.
But the choice, like the freedom to
Yes.
choice, like
Yes.
to just
we are given
choose.
so little space to make decisions for ourselves. We are shamed, we are humiliated, we are disrespected, we are marginalized, we are silenced. I mean, we are judged, all of the things when we don't make the decisions that the dominant culture wants us to make. And so that's why I applaud. I mean, 3 of the women up there don't have children that were on that panel.
Well, so then tell me what all of this experience, you stepped away, you said, I'm going to start my nonprofit. I'm going to do something to give back to what made you pick that community?
So June of 2020, I was in New York City and lockdown started 3 months before that. And in New York, we were the epicenter of the pandemic. And we were literally scared to death. I mean, all of us have some form of PTSD. If you think about the shit that we did, we washed our groceries. Remember, we would wash stuff as soon as it came in the door. We would literally wash our groceries. In New York, we didn't go in the street without a mask on. Do you remember there was a shortage of KN95? I mean, I could just go on and on and on. And so I watch New York One every morning. Shout out to Pat Kiernan. And there was a story about SYEP, which is a summer youth employment program run by NYC-DO8 by the Department of Education.
Okay.
And at the time, it employed 75,000 New York City public school students. It's now about 110,000 a year. DYCD, who was in there yesterday, New York City Department of Youth and Community Development, they run this program. There was no program that summer. There's 75,000 New York City public school kids that aren't going to have a job, and a number of those relied, and their families relied on that income. So I started thinking, Julia, I want to help out this program, and then I thought, no, let me do something closer to home. Let me do something that I can do myself. And as a woman of color who had, at the time, been mentored for 33 years by Michael Austin, I thought, this is what I want to do. I was very clear on the impact, the profound impact that his mentorship has had on me. And I thought, okay, I want to do this. And I called a couple of people and I kind of shaped it out. And in less than 72 hours, I had over 100 mentors. And they were all my friends. I knew all of them personally. They were literally people that I called and I texted and everybody was like, Soph, I'm down. But I will tell you what, it speaks to 3 things. Number 1, it speaks to the urgency of the mission to mentor women of color. And I'll get to why women of color in a second. It also speaks to love for me. It also speaks to belief that it's going to run because Sophia Chang is running it. Because it's what I said yesterday, an idea without execution is meaningless.
But why mentorship?
Mentorship because I'm a mentee. And I know, and I can recall so many times when Michael Austin's mentorship has been so meaningful. And I had spoken at Columbia University. I did a talk, and one of my girlfriends stood up, a woman of color, and she said, Sophia, I'm in my mid-40s, and I've never been mentored. How do I find a mentor? And I went, I don't know, honey. I mean, I guess the advice I would give to anybody even now is look for the people in your space that you respect the most. And you know what? Just DM them, like send them a cold email
Right.
if you don't know how to get to them. And I started doing some anecdotal research and just asking my girlfriends who are women of color, and they're all very accomplished. Were you ever mentored? Most of them were never mentored. And many of them said, man, if I had a mentor, Sophia,
Yep.
I would have gotten here faster, without as many failures, without as many huge mistakes. And I really wish I had a mentor. And so realizing that it made such a big difference, I really wanted to reach out. And why women of color? I'm a woman of color. And I'm very clear, Julia, that had I made a program for women, that the greatest beneficiaries of that program would have been white women. I just know that. I mean, if you think about the space that we were in yesterday, where we were building community, all of those women of color getting up there and telling the room why they were the baddest bitch in the room, that would not have happened in a white room. No way. Those little girls at the end. There's no, if that was a white room, if that was a room of men.
No.
Never.
Never.
I want to create that space. Now, I am hardly saying that white women, white men, men of color aren't deserving of mentorship. Of course they are. Everybody deserves mentorship.
Right.
But as a limited resource, as I am, I choose to put my engine, my drive, my social capital, all of my leverage behind women of color. I center women of color in virtually everything that I do.
We're all called to fight for something. Mm-hmm. It is in our hearts. The only way we wake up every day and fight for it is if it is the thing that drives us, the thing that we're passionate about, the change that we want to see.
Yeah.
And I think right now in our environment, people get so embarrassed, or they don't think it's enough, or they don't think, like, if your calling is the foster dogs and you'll fight and you'll get up and you'll raise money and you'll talk to your friends about it, do it.
Yeah.
Like, don't be ashamed or embarrassed or don't think it's enough. And you're right. There is enough programming out there. And we're all called to do very different things.
Yes. Because we can't all do the same thing.
How boring of a world would that be?
Yes.
And so what I think specifically when you look at mentorship, I think the best thing that I've had mentors, many different mentors throughout my life, the best thing was the not feeling alone.
Yeah.
And just giving a young, I didn't have mentorship really at that age. And God, if I had mentorship at that age, let's go. But not feeling alone in our own station. Yeah. And being told that it's okay. And it's funny because you had somebody, so we Unlock Her Potential, we haven't said it yet, is the name of your program. It's an absolutely amazing that really does mentorships for women of color. And it is just impactful and powerful and all the things. And I got to go to its event yesterday, the symposium.
Yeah.
And so you had somebody on your panel.
Yes.
It was completely unexpected for me.
Yeah.
Can I share this with you?
Please.
I'll share this with you. Okay. So Just Blaze.
Are you a fan?
Huge fan. Because he worked with Eminem is probably like just because he's a poet, and I write down his lyrics, and he worked on a song called No Love. I don't know if you
did Just Blaze?
Yeah.
Okay.
With Eminem and Lil Wayne, right?
Okay.
And there is this again in the lyrics, "You'll never take my pride." And Eminem sings it, and he talks about, like, you'll never slow my momentum. You'll never take my pride. And that lyric in some random song, it's not even a famous, it's somewhat of a famous song of his, but not super famous. It's not like Lose Yourself, but like, you'll never take my pride.
Yeah.
Holy crap.
And it stayed with you.
It's journaled with me almost every day, because if I'm proud of the work I'm doing, then it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
And one of you think of
it's
it.
the intrinsic motivation.
Correct.
Yes.
You'll never take my pride.
Yeah.
And it's like so weird that one lyric. And so I'm like listening to him talk about like being his mentor, like he's a mentor, and like just listening to him talk. And I'm like, do you know that you have like changed a lot? And
I did you meet him?
No, of course not.
I wish you'd said something to me.
No, I could not.
And he's the sweetest.
Is he really?
Yes.
But like to think that he had such a profound effect on the way that I live my life and the way that I really move through life, because all that matters for me at the end of the day, and it's taken me very long to get here. But if I'm proud of myself and I'm proud of my contributions to the world,
Nothing else matters. And that will reflect onto your children.
And it's so hard for people, and this is what I respect. This is why, if you have not gone to this or checked out this program, if you're a person, if you're a young woman of color specifically, or if you really just want someplace to donate,
a woman of color, any age over 18.
Yeah. But also too, I think that women really shape society, and if we build stronger girls, we'll have a stronger society. Like there's so much more that we can do with that. So if you have donation dollars that want to come, hooray. But I think specifically when you had people show up in their authentic self.
Yes.
You didn't tell them what they wanted to be. And let me tell you, I was surprised with every single person. Because like you look at a person and you're like, okay.
Yes.
And then you had, again, and I will say this, very, very, the graphic design or the graphic novelist. Did you expect?
Oh, no. The young Chinese woman?
Yeah.
No.
And she's a graphic novelist. And I was like sitting here and I'm like,
yes.
It just made me even more.
Yeah, it's so exciting.
To like, and the energy that it had of what the world could be if we all really contributed in the way we wanted to.
Yes,
not in the way we were told.
Yes.
Not in the way that other people
the
would.
Parents, society, everybody expects and wants us to, tell us what to do. Absolutely.
But we're all facing the same thing with that. And that was what I thought was so empowering about yesterday is that we weren't being lectured on what we should be. We weren't told what empowerment should look like. Yeah. We weren't told that we need to bring other women to the table. Yeah. We weren't lectured or told. Yeah. We were allowed to be our authentic self, ask questions, be surrounded by vibrant people with such great energy. And you rooted for every person in that room.
Yes. And some of them were so nervous. And because that's what building community is about. It isn't about lecturing. It isn't about, here are the 7 things that you must do. No, you find your own path and you find your way to build community and to contribute and to give back and love in your own way.
And so you looked at all of those amazing people. Yes. There was one specifically that had philanthropist in his title. Do you know?
It was Benga.
No, he was one, but then it was the rapper.
Joey.
And
Benga has social activists. Has activists.
And I went up and I asked the question, I'm like, why is it important that you consider yourself? Was it? It was him, right?
It was Joey Baddest. Yeah, for sure.
Sorry. And I'm like, why is it important that you're a philanthropist? Like, it is very hard for people you're a philanthropist, but it's so hard for people to give themselves the title of a philanthropist. The definition of a philanthropist is somebody that gives back to their community.
Yes. Yeah.
So technically you all are philanthropists, but why is it okay for you to own that? Yeah. And his answer, I don't know if you heard it, but his answer to that question is, how could I not be? Mm-hmm. How could I not give back to the community how could I not give a chance for other people to have what I have or to have my knowledge? And you brought that. You created that energy. You brought those people together. Yeah. And those people do what I feel. You may disagree, but I think the most important thing you can do for somebody is show up for them.
Yes. Yes.
And I use that powerfully. Yes. I show up for the people I care, like all the things. And I just want to say, unlock her potential. All that you are doing is incredibly.
Thank you.
It's just incredible. And but you bring humility and humor and everything to it. So what is one of the stories that you have heard that has just
from the program?
Yeah, from the program that has just knocked your socks off.
There is an Indian Canadian stand-up comedian. His name is Russell Peters, and he is hilarious. He is astronomically talented, and he tours the world, and he's so successful and so brilliant, and he's a dear friend. And he mentored a 50-plus-year-old Japanese mother of 2 who speaks with an accent to be a stand-up comedian. Now, I would have said to her, I know how racist this country is. I know that speaking with an Asian accent is very different than speaking with a British accent or a French accent. I don't know. He has given her 4 opening slots on his shows. Now, the parameters of Unlock Her Potential is that you get me for an hour a month for a year. You can't ask me for anything other than advice. What do I mean by that? You can't ask for introductions. You can't ask for access. You can't ask for a letter of recommendation. You can't ask for a referral. You can't ask for a job. You can't ask for an internship. You can't, like, you are really, I want those people to be reported, because I cannot put my friends in a position where they're, hey, can I come to the studio? Can I have tickets? Can I have this? And without even hesitating, Russell gave that to her. And Michelle Malazaki is her name. And she is so wonderful. And she wrote me an email and she said, Sophia, I am now a professional stand-up comic.
Let's go.
So gorgeous. Over 50.
And that's what's also impressive, is because as we age, we are told we are less valuable.
Yes.
So tell me why it's important to include that.
I mean, especially for women. How many women do you know who got married and who had kids and woke up at 40 and said, I don't know who I am anymore other than a mother and a husband and a wife?
I mean,
I don't know who I am. I mean, it's almost everybody. And then they want to get back into the workforce, but all they've been doing is taking care of not only their children, but their husband for the last decade. I'm a woman. Again, I am virtually 60. I am still mentored. I spoke to my mentor last week. We talk at least once a week, and he gives me guidance and he gives me advice. And there are so many women in my program that are pivoting in their 40s.
But also, too, we feel different. Like, that's, I think, as women, that's also incredibly hard. All of a sudden, our bodies and our mind and everything is completely different than what we're used to our entire life.
Yeah, that's the thing that I said. That's why I announced yesterday that I'm perimenopausal. Like, what the? No. Yeah, I am going into menopause, and we don't talk about it. Like, we have to talk about women's health and women's bodies, because all of it is being taken away from us. Our bodily autonomy is not something that we are supposed to have.
And nobody listens.
Nobody listens. And that's why we just have to keep talking about it. Just keep talking about it, keep talking about it, keep talking about it. Normalize the discourse around menopause and all other women's health issues.
And then because you're afraid, because if I say, hey, I'm dealing with brain fog, well, am I not as valuable? Will they not hire me? Will they not? And you're like, but you're like, how is this a real? Yeah. And so that's what I appreciated too about Unlock Her Potential is it's not really, it's for anybody that wants
18 and older. There is a floor, there is no ceiling.
And in all of that yesterday, and I'm going to end the podcast asking you the same question that was asked to you yesterday. Probably the most moving act. What are you most proud of?
Oh, my children.
I mean,
that's, if I wanted to raise kind, just, benevolent leaders. I don't mean leader of the new world. I don't mean that. I don't mean leader, power, money, be a CEO. I mean people that lead other people and are willing to assume the mantle and guide other people with kindness and magnanimity. And my children are good humans. I did my job. And I told my kids, I don't give a where you go to school. I don't give a where you work. I don't give a how much money you make. I care that you are good people, and I care that you do the thing that you are passionate about. Mommy will make the money. I'll give lap dances. I will go rob a bank. I will do what I need to do to make sure that you can pursue your passion, because what a privilege. What a privilege.
Well, Sophia Chang, thank you so much for being on this podcast today. And I am honored to just watch how you're giving back. And it's amazing.
We're so happy to be with United Charitable, best fiscal sponsor ever.
Make sure we loop that over and over. Yes. I'm kidding. Awesome. Exactly. All right.
Hi, my name is Sophia Chang. United Charitable, the best fiscal sponsorship ever. Hi, my name is Sophia Chang. www.unitedcharitable.org. Best fiscal sponsor ever. Hi, my name is Sophia Chang. If you are thinking of creating a nonprofit, or you're already running a nonprofit and you need somebody to help you with the back end and compliance, United Charitable. www.unitedcharitable.org.
Sophia, you're amazing. Thank you. Find Inspired Changemakers on Instagram, YouTube, and LinkedIn, and comment on all the awesome things you are doing to make this world a better place. Don't forget to subscribe.